Welcome to West of Tulsa. I'm CJ Ward, and we are broadcasting from Ventura, California. We have most of the crew here. Beth still isn't with us.
Boo.
Trust me, she's around. She's just working on other jobs that actually pay money.
That's why she's not hiding
here.
her from us.
I know. So Beth isn't here, but we do have Helm's back. Welcome
How you
back,
doing?
Helm.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
He's been working too. We'll tell you what he's been up to here in a bit. And we got Gabe, and we got Dan. And our guest today, thank you for coming in. We got Ralph and Ryan Gold from R&R Motorworks in Goleta. And you guys focus on Miatas. For the most part, right?
Yes.
I mean, you guys work on everything. I've been to your garage, and you have a great garage.
Yeah.
But Miatas, you guys love those cars, and you race them. And we just want to learn more about what you're doing, why Miatas, and how much fun you guys are having working on those things.
Yeah, you want me to take this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So, the Miata is just such a good car, and that's a very blanketed sort of statement. I think it's honestly one of the best cars that's ever come out. And I know that again is a very blanketed statement, but I think that it just fits so many different walks of life. We deal with customers who are, first car, last car, weekend car, race car, track car, anything in between. And then, just the excitement that people get with those cars.
And you're talking about all generations. I mean, the Miata, I have friends that have had all these different year Miatas. I have not heard one bad word about the Miatas.
I think that the bad words that are out there about those cars are from people that just don't have the experience with them or haven't had an experience with them. And it's not even having a positive experience. It's just having an experience with them, because every single person that we've met that's driven one of those cars, nothing but good things to say.
They're so much fun.
And the people that have, the negative things to say, it's, oh, the car's too small. Oh, the car's this, the car's too slow. But if you ask them if they've ever driven it, 100% of the time they'll say no.
Wow.
Well, the numbers kind of speak for themselves, don't they? I mean, they've sold how many millions of? I mean, they've sold a ton of those cars for how many years? It's been around for what, 30 years?
This year is the 35th anniversary.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this year's the 35th
So
anniversary.
they classify or can be classified as a classic.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah,
according to
ones,
Frank De Jesus.
Yeah, we've had debate on that in our socials, haven't we?
Oh yeah.
But you can get the California historic plates on them here.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's 25 years. So
Do you still have to smog it with that? Yep.
So
Damn
yeah,
it.
no, you do. There's something that may change at some point, but right now you do still have to smog with the historic plates. I'm hoping that'll change, but
Yeah.
California.
If I don't have to smog a Miata, I'll buy one, and you guys can fit me in one. That's fair. So I don't look like a circus bear.
That's right. We'll cut out the whole floor and just drop you right in there. Yeah. It'll be okay.
I was actually one of those guys that trash talked the Miata until my friend put me in one.
Fair.
Well, shoehorned me into one because it was the older one, and got to drive it for a little bit until my knees. I got tired of hitting the dashboard, but I thought it was a great car. And at the track, those things, I mean, fly. Bone stock ones, they don't have a ton of power, and guys just smile
Throwing them
ear to
around,
ear.
yeah.
Oh yeah. So I've never heard anybody in my lifetime talk negatively about a Miata if they've been in one.
Sure.
So I agree with that statement 100%.
Yeah, and he's saying stock, you can take it on the track and have fun, but you guys have been doing some fun modifications to them.
Yeah.
So when somebody comes to you, well, I should ask, do people come to you and say, hey, here's my Miata, can you jazz this thing up a little bit? Because I want to go have more fun with it. Is that what happens?
So that's one customer. There's some people that just get the car because they hear all the good things about it, but don't know all the aftermarket support that exists for that car. So they say, oh, this is cool, but can we make it faster? Can we make it better? Can we do this? And we just hit them with the catalog and say, hey, how far do you want to go? Sky's the limit. It's one of those cars that just has such a good support system in the aftermarket to really take the car wherever you want it. And the only thing that's going to limit you is really your budget, because you can do turbo swap, or you can put a turbo in it on turbo swap. Put a turbo in it. You can put a supercharger in it. You can put a V8 in it. You can put K series in it.
What kind of horsepower for each one of these? I mean, how does the horsepower change on a Miata when you start adding turbo and supercharge and all that?
It varies. I mean, the more mild turbo kits are going to get you at like 200 horsepower. Maybe a little less than that for like the carb compliant ones, but roughly about 200 horsepower.
That'll get you moving on a little car like that.
With a car that weighs pretty much nothing. Yeah.
But they come stock with what, 140?
So depending on if we're talking like the early ones, I believe they were like 131, somewhere in that.
Might be a little less than that.
128.
Well, not less than that.
Oh, okay.
Maybe like
116.
Maybe like 100.
Okay.
Man,
Oh,
so,
I
so we know
honestly
he's
don't
never
know.
driven a stock one. He's always out there on the ones that are all jazzed up a bit.
It feels like you're driving 130.
Yeah.
You got 130 horsepower in it.
Sure.
So
It's a go-kart with doors. It's a street legal go-kart with doors. And yeah, that's how you feel when you drive one of those.
Wow. Now, do you both race them?
I do, but not in the same way that Ryan does. So I do autocross.
Okay.
And it's sort of my jam right now, and that's what I enjoy doing. It gives me sort of the ability to be able to go back and look at what my time is, what do I need to do to change, checking certain things, tire pressures and stuff like that. As opposed to being out on the track, you set it up once, you're gone, road racing, and you don't have the opportunity to make adjustments until you actually come back in, and that could be some time. So I like fiddling.
Oh, nice.
Do you run in the stock class? Which class do you run in, or do you just kind of time trial for yourself?
Yeah, it's more or less time trials.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
We use the autocross as a testing ground for our workhorse car.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have a fleet of Miatas, unfortunately. And I think with most Miata owners, they usually have more than one. It's one of those things I don't know why that is, but if you talk to people that have owned that car for more than a few years, they probably have more than one. Doesn't mean both of them run.
It's like a rotary owner.
They probably.
It's like
I could save it. I could save this one. This is gonna be the one that I'm gonna save, and it never happens.
Oh, that's
it never
funny.
happens. But with the autocross, we really use it as our testing grounds for our workhorse car is our R&D car that we go and we just really try to beat the heck out of and try to get it to do something different, but it doesn't die.
and
I would
again,
imagine-
that's I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I imagine you do that because one, it's fun, but two, then you can turn around to the customer and say, okay, this is how this works. This is what it's going to feel like. This is what it's going to do to the car.
Yeah.
Right,
We do a lot of testing. The reason why we use the autocross for that is mostly because of the vicinity. It's just very close to us. It's in Santa Maria.
Okay.
So it just wants it being close, and it's a half day or a whole day as opposed to being like a whole weekend where we have to dedicate and going to Button Willow or Willow Springs or something like that, where we have to spend Friday to Sunday night and then come back and then work Monday through Friday, and there's no rest in between. With the autocross, because it's in Santa Maria, it just wants it being really close and just a real easy a day on us because we can drive up there and do what we need to do our testing, and then come back and hopefully catch a couple winks of sleep.
Yeah, and that also, when we do the testing, it also kind of goes back to getting the Miata. Two things that it provides us with is durability and reliability. That's what you see on the track with that. You can beat the crap out of that car, and it continues to come back.
Wow.
And as long as you do the maintenance on it, it will stand up and be there for the next race. Quality as far as, how the car was built, it's there.
Wow.
So, it's something that when you start understanding why this car is so cool, that's one of the pieces you start picking up. And then when you get behind the wheel, you start driving it, you go into the turns without having to lift. You're, going like 40, 50 miles an hour into the turn, boom, just zoom, zoom.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
That's fun.
Nice
really
plug
cool.
for Miata,
Yeah,
for
it-
Mazda,
yeah,
by the
it
way.
is. Yeah.
Oh, zoom, zoom. Yeah.
Zoom, zoom.
Well, I'm curious. So, at one point, was it a subtle transition where you guys all of a sudden said, how come we're all of a sudden working on all these Miatas? Or did you actually make a conscious decision to say, these cars are cool. Let's work on them. Let's put them together. Let's race them. But how did that all come about?
So we started out with the idea of doing sort of the muscle cars and Japanese cars. And when I say Japanese cars, it was pretty broad. We kind of focused on the Z cars. We focused on the Evo. We did a sort of remake of a car
I
that
saw that one. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
The blue one. Was it the blue one?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
And that eventually got picked up in some of the advertising that they did on Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
We were actually
really?
out on the scene, on the filming scene, when they did the filming out at Button Willow. And it was actually pretty cool. And so we took that car and we wanted to see what aftermarket parts could we put on it that would generate a tremendous amount of horsepower. And we, swapped in some parts, swapped in other parts, tested it, came up with some other parts that we added to it, and we got some pretty decent horsepower. I think we were probably somewhere in the area of maybe 450, and that was naturally aspirated. I'm sorry, I lied about that. It was boosted. So, and that was for a car that we were able to get smogged. We had somewhere in the area of, I think, about 450, something like that.
Yeah. The plan for that one was really to see how far we could push the stock frame turbo and stock injectors, just to see how far it could really go, and running at almost 100% duty cycle, and just to see how far the Evo 10 platform could go.
Yeah.
And that was kind of where we ended up.
And then we came up with, okay, so how can we make it aesthetically cooler?
Yeah.
And we put on a Voltex.
Voltex. We had a Voltex wing. We reached out to Varus Japan. They sent us at the time one of their new kits that was one of, I think, 3 that was available at the time. 2 of them were on their display car, so we had one of them. And then we had some stuff from Charge Speed USA.
I remember you guys had a great write-up on that Fast and Furious car.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of attention for that.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and it was sort of a thing where I think we were like like if you were in a race and you had the Fast and Furious and then us, we were kind of a little bit ahead of what they were trying to create at the time. I believe we were. Maybe other people might say otherwise, but I think, in featuring our car, or at least putting it out there during the advertising, it was sort of a nod to what they were doing.
Nice.
So
yeah,
it was cool.
What a fun project.
Yeah, it was cool. And we got to meet a lot of people there. He got some pictures with one of the
we snuck in with the cast, and they thought we worked there, and they were asking us just like, hey, can you move that Audi R8, or hey, can you go over there? I'm like, hey man, I don't work here. You got the wrong guy. I may look like these guys, but I'm just here to just kind of blend in.
And I built that car over there.
I'm just making sure that you guys don't mess with my car.
Did the movie boost your guys' business at all, or just kind of did it really? I mean, obviously advertising for the Evo was helpful because you guys were building that car, but did the movie itself or that franchise really help boost you guys? Because it sounds like you don't have those type of Fast and Furious wannabe guys coming to your shop. You have more serious people, average Joes, just wanting maintenance, and then some track type stuff, which is not Fast and Furious guys. So do you think that helped or didn't matter for you guys?
I don't know that it necessarily helped. It was something cool that we got to experience. I would definitely say that. But as far as like our race customers and stuff like that, it's just something that we could say that we did, but and something we could use for,
it's on the resume.
Exactly. It's on the resume. It's part of our extended experience.
Yeah.
We can say that we were a part of, but I don't know that it really pushed us, or we could say we were a Fast and Furious person, or
well, because there's a lot of people you might know personally as well. I know plenty of people that find that the Fast and Furious franchise is the genesis of changing everything in the JDM or import motorsports, which I don't believe that. I mean, I guess it did change a lot of stuff, but for me, I could care less about the Fast and Furious.
It was already there. I mean,
I was racing way before that. I was
exactly.
racing way before that. And when Fast and Furious came, it got more mainstream, and then negatively or positively, take it however you will. But I feel like people kind of, when they use that as a benchmark or as a milestone, it's not always the greatest light, especially coming from the muscle car guys. Like all my hot rod buddies, they just look at every import as everything is Fast and Furious, which is obviously not the case.
Right.
But it did give this kind of connotation that you put stickers and, like Dan likes to say, the fart can on the Hondas and stuff like that. But it's just curious to me if it changed, because I know it changed a lot of business for people that sell body kits and wheels and stuff like that, because that movie brought a lot of products to market. But in your case, that wasn't.
Yeah, I don't think we were looking for it. I don't think we were out there looking for a bump or anything like that. I think that there was more an internal sort of push to where we wanted to be, and it kind of was, continuing down that racing scene, continuing down, providing performance. In some ways, and it's not to take anything away from Fast and Furious, it was more about street racing, and we wanted to be more responsible as far as what we built and making sure that it was purpose built for either the track or for the street, and that the folks that were part of what we were trying to create were also responsible enough to understand the difference.
Yeah.
So how did that car end up lead to the Miata? So obviously there was some kind of transformation here. You guys were kind of evolving through this process. Ended up with the Miatas.
When did you buy your first one? And I think that's probably where it started, when he first bought. Because when I say his first one, he's probably owned 20, 25 of them.
I'm in the 30s.
30s? Okay.
Wow.
Sweet. I don't feel so bad now. All right.
I've never owned a Miata. I own 2 of them now.
Oh, wow.
And I still have my muscle cars.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
But I enjoy driving the Miata just because of what I've learned from, being behind the wheel, working on the car. It's fantastic.
Well, my question is, with the quantity now, like you have 2, you've owned 20. Is that
30?
30.
Or 30.
Yeah.
Is that because I know you're talking about durability, reliability, and that number kind of, does that equate to it, one not performing at its best or falling apart, or is it just the affordability of the car and what you could do with it? So you want to you could afford to have 20 of them and fix them up, bespoke to how you want it, and have a whole fleet of them to enjoy.
I don't know that it's either one of those things. I think personally for me, it's more I have car ADD. And then, like, I'll get one and I'm like, okay, this is the way I want it. Okay. And then either somebody will come up and say, hey, is that for sale? And anything's for sale.
Everything's for sale, right?
Yeah, everything's for sale.
You go buy another one and make it even better, right?
Yeah, and to do something else. For me too, a lot of it, once we had kind of got into how deep we are with the Miata stuff, in nerding out about packages and colors and rarity and all that kind of stuff, then you start to really look at the value of the car, and then figure out, oh, okay, well, this jumped up overnight.
Oh, wow.
Or this one is this rare, or changing them out for different models. It just made sense. You'd get one, or I'd get one, and then drive it for a little bit of time, and somebody would say, hey, is that for sale? And like I said, everything's for sale.
Yeah, as long as you can pay the price,
Well,
it's for sale.
and you guys touch upon like the support that you had with aftermarket scene. How has Mazda been influential with that community as a whole? Have they, kind of maybe did like driver clinics for the Miata as they design the new chassis right now? Like, have you seen that influx of support from Mazda corporate?
So the short answer is yes. I don't know that I've seen them do driver clinics, but they do a lot of, they do get involved with sponsoring events, which is great. There's an event that we're a part of and that we go to every year. That's, it used to be at Laguna Seca, and it went on tour during COVID, and then came back to Sonoma last year. And then this year it's at Sonoma, and Mazda is one of the sponsors of the event. Which is cool to see, a big corporate company like them be involved, and they get involved with some smaller groups and stuff like that. So that's one part of it. On the racing side, there's the Mazda Motorsports program. And with the Mazda Motorsports program, you can basically reach out to Mazda directly with parts requests or stuff that you need, and it's not expensive.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
the same with
that's
in the
cool.
Rotary community.
Oh,
They're
they had that support.
very active. In one of our previous shows with Jeffrey Willert, he talked about how Nissan is not a part of that community as much as they'd like to have them.
And they're dropping the ball.
And they're dropping the
Yeah,
ball
we were talking about
because
that.
it's affecting the enthusiasm that the owners would like to see them have.
Right.
Because it does spur on, those how many Miata guys that are Mazda guys because Mazda got behind them. Then you see, oh, Mazda's at this event. Like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, sponsoring it. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it makes a huge impact on the user experience with that particular platform.
Right.
Yeah.
And because you're so concentrated on that specific chassis, are you kind of like one of the few shops that really concentrate on Miatas? Because I haven't heard of another shop that was like, strictly, hopping up Miatas from the ground up.
There are definitely some that are out there that focus on they will develop parts around that car, through the 4 generations of the car. That's all that they do. They only make Miata parts. They only want to sell Miata parts. They only want to do that stuff. And there are certain companies that only retail Miata parts, and then there are certain companies that only manufacture Miata parts.
Oh,
Some of those companies maybe branch out where they have other applications just because they put the R&D and maybe figure out that the parts work on other vehicles. There are some shops. There's a lot of shops in Japan that are very focused on the Roadster MX-5, and that's all that they do. They restore them, they race them, they build them, they sell them.
Is the majority of your clientele Miatas, or no, what would you say the percentage is?
I would say it's probably about 50-50.
Okay.
60-40.
Okay, 60-40.
60 Miata, 40
Okay,
the other
that's pretty
50.
big.
else. Yeah.
So
Pretty big.
Well, when I've been to your shop, I've seen Corvettes and some beautiful muscle cars. You guys work on everything. And I've seen them stripped down pretty far before. It's like, wow, these guys are going to put this thing back together again.
Well, I'm interested to know, like, your background, knowing that you work on American and Japanese. What is your guys' individual backgrounds in the motor industry? Are you engineers, tuners? I mean, like, how in depth are you guys on that?
So I started off after I graduated high school. I went to a technical school for automotive repair, and I worked after I graduated. I worked at a body shop, and it was kind of interesting as far as what we were doing. It was a Chevrolet dealership, and shortly after that, I had with my wife. We had opened a shop in the town that we lived in, and it was all customizing.
Okay.
And it was aftermarket customizing, and we were doing some stuff with Hearst at the time, and that kind of was maybe the first entry into what the potential of car customizing was all about. But again, it's different. It was different back then than what it is today.
Were you into customizing before you got into the automotive field? Like, were you into customizing your own car before you got into the trades, or?
That's hard to say because, and I'm explaining, it's hard to say because, as a high schooler back then, you were making like $1.25 an hour. You didn't have a lot of capital to customize your car.
Yeah.
There are parts out there, and when I was in high school, I took the automotive classes and trying to figure out how to drop a cam in correctly so that you could fire it up and you didn't have to pull it back out or do some other stuff because you had the timing wrong or whatever the case may be. I did what I could with what I had. As a young guy, but as we started our business and we got connected with some of the vendors that we were working with, our capital also increased, and we kind of carved out a niche that was more on the side of customizing. We used to display at the McCormick place, so they're similar to like the LA Auto Convention and that sort of stuff. So we'd show all of our stuff there. We'd work with some of the car dealers that we were working with, that we would customize the car and have it as a display car there. So it was kind of interesting. So that's kind of where I started. But at some point down the road, I also sort of changed up the career path that I went into, and it was a little bit different. Like 20, 30 years later, I was in that same situation where I worked in corporate America, decided, there was an opportunity to be able to walk away with enough money in my pocket from working and retirement, stuff like that. This guy was doing really well. He had started getting recognized in different media magazines and stuff that was more current at the time. And he had started out with Hondas and then slowly started moving the Evo and everything. And he and I started talking, and we were like, maybe we should start a business. And, again, I still always had muscle cars. At the time, I had a Corvette, 58 Corvette, and was tinkering with that, doing stuff with that. And as we started talking, we were like, well, this would be kind of interesting, because when I had my car, I realized if I needed work done on it, there was no one in town to work on the car. And I thought, well, this might be an opportunity. And when we started talking, I started looking at some of the stuff that he was doing. I was like, I'll bet that's the same case for his market, what he was involved in with the Japanese cars. And boom, the light bulb went off. And then we started working together, and he was showing me some of the stuff that he was doing. I was kind of showing him some of the stuff we were doing, and boom, the business took off.
Wow.
And I love it. This is a father son. Now, I don't want to read too much into this, but R&R, Ralph and Ryan, correct?
Rest and relaxation.
Okay.
That's all we do.
If you come in,
Working
we're
on
taking
cars,
a
there's no rest and relaxation.
No.
You're working on cars.
I never
We all
asked
know
that question before. I've known you guys for years, and I've never asked that question before. R&R,
Yeah, it's
Ralph and
Ralph
Ryan.
and
Okay,
Ryan.
good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nothing
good.
gets by you,
We've
CJ.
No, we've solved that problem.
And,
Okay,
and
good.
it's not necessarily Ralph and Ryan. It
Oh,
could
it's
be Ryan and Ralph.
Okay, good.
Yeah, just depending on.
Depending on if you ask me or if you ask him.
So I find this a very common kind of story. Dad's into hot rods, son's into the imports. You grew up, obviously your dad had these cars since you were, before you were born.
Sure.
You never had an interest in getting to the hot rods or what? Because I started the same way too with Hondas. Honda's like the gateway car, right? You start with the Hondas and then it goes, I don't know, because maybe the barrier to market's, very light. But you had no interest in the hot rods before. What made you want to get into the imports versus what your dad was doing?
I don't have a good answer for that.
No, that's not true. Ask him about his '69 Camaro.
Oh, okay. So,
Oh, there's a good story here. I can feel it.
I take that back. So, when I was younger, I never was really, really interested in the muscle car stuff. I thought it was cool, but it just, I don't know. I felt like it just didn't apply to me, or it just didn't
connect.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't connect with me. It doesn't mean that I didn't think they were cool. I definitely respected them. Definitely, give the guy a thumbs up if I'd see him driving down the street, that sort of thing. But, I don't know. It just didn't really connect with me. And he tried. Before I could drive, we had a Fox body project that we were
Mustang.
trying to get that together. And I pushed against. It never really came to fruition because I just was like, no, I'm going this way, just going over here. So yeah, they were cool, but yeah, I just never.
Well, I see a great opportunity with that question that you just asked. Being that you guys are in business together, father and son, I think you guys need to do individual build, JDM and American Muscle, and compete.
Well, sounds like they already have that.
Well, no, and compete and see. Is there a little friendly competition within the workspace with your dad, like when you're coming to building, or it's more of like teaching each other, kind of
probably
techniques?
A little both, yeah. Probably
See,
a
I
little
like
both.
that.
Yeah, probably a little both. I always try to finish faster than he does.
There's a lot of collaboration on the builds we do, whether it's Japanese or whether it's American, and I always believe that an old dog can learn new tricks.
Yeah.
And when I see some of the stuff that he's doing, I'm interested. The thing that's kind of interesting about this, the relationship that we have, he was describing he wasn't interested in muscle cars. That was the same way I felt about the cars that he was working on. Back when I had my shop in Illinois, we had Hondas coming in, we had Toyotas coming in, Mazdas coming in, and we were working on those. But they weren't like the cool stuff back then. At least I didn't see them that way. I was still, into the muscle car stuff, but that's what was paying the bills. And when, he and I started talking, I started seeing how he's modifying the cars, and I looked into sort of the stance on them and kind of the way they sounded and everything. I thought, there's got to be something. This has got to be that same sort of thing that happened in the 60s with the muscle cars. Yeah, you could buy a Roadrunner and keep it all stock, but also you could juice it up. And that's what he was doing back then, where I was like, oh, okay. I'm not an old dog that I can't learn something new, and that's kind of what I picked up.
That's
from
cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And I love that. It seems that you guys work together really well.
We do.
Yeah,
That's
you
cool.
can just feel the energy that you guys do a good job. just
Brian's smiling.
collaborating. Brian's like, "Oh, you should have been here
I
when
feel
we
like there's
drove
something
over."
He wants to add to that.
No comment.
So it did not start in the beginning that way. And, here I'm coming from a corporate environment where the hierarchy, the way it was set up and how I understood it is, okay, so I'm the manager, I'm the GM, whatever. I've got to be able to put the wheels in motion as far as what we're doing. And I have to make sure that those things get done. And there was that sort of conflict between, I guess, how I communicated versus, how he took it. And what I didn't understand, and it took me a while to sort of get this, was that he and I were on the same playing field. He and I were trying to achieve the same goal. And it wasn't going to happen by me alone. It had to happen as a collective group.
That's
And once
awesome.
I took that attitude, once I understood where the opportunities were in us being able to work together, then my mind sort of opened up to understand what he was doing, and then realize, wow, this is sort of the future, and a future of where we're going. And I say that because the introduction of the Japanese cars was sort of the introduction for me to understand the computer side of how a car operates. I understood from the old school side. You have your coil, you have your plugs. You didn't have a computer connected to the car. You had to figure out how to tune it and get it correctly.
Yeah, your screwdriver was the tuner.
Yeah.
Right?
For the carbs,
the carburetor.
for the carbs.
But when I worked in corporate America, I learned programming, and the idea of being able to incorporate, tweaking the computer and making it work better so that it understood how and my knowledge previous about how you manually did it kind of sunk up. So it was like one of those things where when we started working together, it was like, yeah, I understand that. And then when he would explain certain things to me, it was like, I get it now. I get it now. So
Nice.
it took some time. There were, I'd say, probably a year or two where, we were bumping heads,
Sure.
but
Learning
we got
process.
there.
You
Yeah,
guys are going through the learning
that's
we
process.
got there.
Well, I think Ralph, you get a lot of credit for coming around on a little 2,000-pound, 100 horsepower car, being able to appreciate that coming from the V8 world and the Roadrunner world and so on, because that's two different worlds for sure. But I totally get where you're coming from. Whereas the Miata it's an iconic car. I mean, for sure. I remember when they first came out, my brother-in-law got one. I was really disappointed. I was hyped on that car. He let me take it out for a spin and so on. I literally could not fit in the car. I know you were saying that. You were saying like, oh, some guys can't fit. It was like, because I had a pickup truck back in the day, one of those little Mitsubishis, and same thing. It was, a single cab. I'm 6'1", and I always just felt like, God, I got to have my legs bent, like Gabe.
Yeah.
My knees have to be up here to be able to drive the thing, and I was massively disappointed. Like, I want to drive a Miata, man. Miata looks super fun, but I literally can't fit in it. So, I think you got points, Ralph, for coming around to that mindset of like, they're both cool in their own way.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to go from any muscle car to an import is one thing, but to go from a muscle car to a Miata, like the Miata is like the smallest import,
Opposite end of the world.
really, I mean, one of the smallest imports you could go to, and the platform. I don't know of any American car that even fits that same type of platform. Maybe there is, but not that I know of right now. Like that has that kind of small displacement, small size, compact design, nimble kind of thing. It's like Dan was saying, literally opposite ends of the spectrum. So to combine the two is just like, wow, that's kind of interesting. Like you have a Roadrunner and a Miata. Like what? You have what? It'd be one thing if you said you had like, I don't know, a Supra or
Exactly.
even
Exactly.
an Evo, which has quite a bit of horsepower stock, compared to other cars. But no, it's a Miata. It's completely different. But yeah, and you race it, you drive it for what it was made for. So I think that's kind of really cool perspective that you can offer. But it sounds to me that you're also a little bit more open-minded, just in general, of like learning. It seems like you're constantly learning, which might be a
Yeah, that's
contributing factor.
absolutely true. When I first started getting into Miatas, I started sort of connecting some of the things that I started seeing from what Mazda did and how it actually connected back to what I saw was going on back in the 60s. For one, the color combinations that they came out with was so cool on the Miatas. And you trace that back to what they were doing on the 69 Mustangs, the Camaros,
The Dodge stuff.
the Dodge
Mopar,
stuff,
yeah.
the Mopar stuff,
Oh.
and then the little tweaks that Mazda was doing with the M series or M editions, and then some of the off sort of cars that they didn't really I don't know if they didn't come out with saying it's a special edition, but it was a limited production of them. And the same thing they did back in the 60s and 70s with, GM cars, the Ford cars, the Mopars. And so I started looking at that and seeing, the connection back and forth. And again, as I started looking at the two, what we do here in America as a car culture and what Japan, we are like really synced up. And we take tidbits of what they're doing right now in with their car culture, and we take it and we tweak it to make it what we would like to see it. Right now, with the Fast and Furious stuff, it really turned into more aesthetics, so making your car look fast. Because here in California and a lot of other states, you've got to deal with the emissions. So there were people that kind of crossed that line, adjusted their cars, and then they had to deal with it. There were other people that didn't go down that road, but they still made it kind of like look cool, look fast. The 60s,
And sound fast.
yeah, and
And
sound fast.
Sound
Yeah.
fast mostly.
Yeah.
Sound fast mostly.
In the 60s, it wasn't about that. It was about having a fast car. Now you look in Japan, they like those cars that were in the 60s and 70s, especially those quarter mile cars with the paint jobs on them. You see it all over a lot of the
Yeah.
groups that are there. And why? We thought it was cool back then. They think it's cool, and they're taking bits and pieces. We take, and we come up with this really cool culture of cars.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's cool. I love that perspective. It's refreshing
Yeah.
to see, the combining, because, I feel like there's such a division just in, not just with the world today, but like in cars, the import guys only deal with imports and the muscle cars. But now we're starting to see more and more as we talk to more people that there is more of like a kind of like a crossing over, because let's just face it, rotting is rotting, right? You fix up a car, it doesn't matter if it's import or domestic, rotting is rotting, right? So I feel like that's maybe kind of like the segue, the transition for people to kind of. I don't find this with people that keep their cars stock. I feel it's more people that are into modifications or customized, I should say.
Yeah, custom.
I wish more people felt that way or had that mindset, because I think when a lot of people go to like cars and coffee events or go to those meetings and stuff like that, if they show up in the wrong car, it's going to upset somebody. And they're going to come and they're either going to say something about it or they're going to have some sort of problem with why that car is there. Like, what's this Miata doing here? This is a Corvette meet. This is a muscle car meet. What are you doing here? And they have the same mindset. That rotting is rotting, and they have the same passion and the same everything. It's just a different car.
Yeah.
Different person, different car, different likes.
Well, I think that's where Cars and Coffee is a great thing, because it's kind of leveling the playing field. It's not a car show. It's like we're just meeting and talking about cars. It's cars in general, right? Because I've been to meets, but so I don't really like going to certain car shows or car shows in general, because if it's specifically for hot rods only, it's like, well, what if I have an old, like Frank De Jesus, he's got a old classic Toyota. It qualifies by their standards, it qualifies as a classic, but they don't look at it that way because it's import. So there's kind of like this prejudice just because it's not one of them, right? Which is terrible. I think that's a terrible thing. And where the Cars and Coffee allows for people to do stuff like that, because there's plenty of car, like as far as modifications go, that I think are terrible. Like the cambered out, broken car, basically. If you guys aren't familiar with that, it's where the cars look like the wheels are caved all the way.
The axle broke.
But hey, at the end of the day, I have to realize that's a thing. That's their choice. That's their way of personalizing their car. Whether I think it's terrible or not, it's not about that. It's like you did something in your car. Hey, you qualify.
You should ask these guys if they do that before you start.
Have you ever had a customer want to do like negative 40-degree camber?
I mean, we've had people come in with those cars, and I kind of have the same. Hey, let me talk to you over here for a second. Let me tell you why this is wrong. But I try to do it in a gentle way.
Yeah.
So it's just like, this is cool, but you're also putting yourself at risk potentially, and it's something that we don't necessarily get involved with because of the risk factor of that whole thing. But we definitely see cars like that, and it's cool. It's cool seeing it go down the road. It's cool seeing it, an inch off the ground or less. But there's also a pretty big danger factor to that if that's a regular
and
everyday
sometimes
car.
they find out the hard way, whatever. And
oil pans and frame damage,
or the whole wheel comes off.
Yeah.
So hey, if you're into that kind of thing, knock yourself out. It's your car. You do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that people are actually into their cars. At least I think they're into their cars.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like
Yeah.
that matters. But going back to your guys' shop, when did you guys start working together?
2003.
2003. And
Sorry, 2013.
13. And were you working in corporate before you guys started the shop, or did you have your own shop doing the muscle car stuff?
No, I was still sort of transitioning from corporate America to opening the shop.
Okay.
Because of the industry that I worked in, I would have had to get sort of certain approval about having a second business. Or operating in a secondary business, but I knew that kind of things were winding down, and it was more or less officially we didn't start doing business until 2014 when I was completely severed from corporate America.
Got it. Cool.
Can we ask? I mean, can you disclose what aspect or what part of corporate America?
FBI.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. CIA.
The way you asked him was like you totally opened the door for him to do that. So
No, I worked in the financial services industry.
Oh, nice.
And there's certain protocols,
okay.
and because we're fingerprinted in that
Got
industry,
it.
and just the way it operates, there could be opportunity for illegal activity.
Oh, got it. But
So
but now that you're fixing Miatas, your fingerprints are all over the valve cover.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, I could never get into chop shopping or any of that stuff because
You'd
I
be
get caught in a
busted.
second.
You'd be busted. So you're not a secret agent, is what you're
No,
telling
no,
us.
no.
Okay, all right.
I like to think I
He
am
neither
at times
confirms
when I'm
nor
driving
denies it.
when I'm driving my Miata.
That's an undercover vehicle, Miata.
Yeah. You just blend in. Nobody sees you. You're way down here.
So what's your guys' favorite type of thing to do for the Miatas? Is like when you have a customer come in, what do you guys prefer? I'm sure you'd like to do everything, but what's kind of your favorite ideal type of mod or prep or setup?
It's kind of hard to say. I would say suspension, definitely. But it kind of depends on what the customer wants. I mean, what their purpose is for the car. If they're, they bought it as their daily driver, we're not going to put a 10-point cage in their car.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we usually
Although
try
I've
to,
seen that.
try to
Yeah.
ask them up front, what is the purpose of the vehicle? And then from that, then we can kind of build out and, make suggestions as far as what kind of improvements
Okay.
we could do.
Well,
to
it's
the
like a
car.
mental decision tree that I have. What's the purpose of this car? Okay, you're going to use it for racing, or are you not going to use it for racing? Is it for this? Is it for that? And then kind of figure out from there, to sort of whittle it down to figure out, okay, this is the avenue that you should start on if this is the goal for the car.
Yeah,
Okay.
we find a lot of times that idea of autocrossing is usually somewhere in their thought of how they plan to use the car. It may not be a car that they're going to use for autocross every single month, but it's gotten really popular, and those folks have decided, okay, well, I might try it. So why not get the car set up correctly?
Okay.
I
Well,
think
after the show airs, there's going to be a lot of interest in the Mazda Miata. With that said, budget wise, or how would you lead them into picking a chassis? Because I know there's the NA, B, and C. Are there ways to where it's like how much to have to kind of find that donor car or the price point for them to get into?
I've got a better solution to what you're asking, because based off what you just said, if I gave them a scenario, right, and the scenario is Helm's never been on a track.
Yeah.
He barely knows how to drive stick shift. Okay.
Excuse
that's
me.
okay. That's okay.
It's a scenario.
I'm gonna learn on
You heard me.
Miata.
How many stick shift cars do you have?
One. No, I had only one.
You had.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, I was saying barely knows how to drive stick shift. Okay. But has always expressed an interest in driving on a track.
Okay.
Okay. So he's like, I want to get out there. What would you guys suggest for a car for Helm to go to the track for the very first time with zero experience?
And
What would that-
and
what
for
car would you
me,
build?
I own classics, and so what I would like to do is kind of have that first chassis, the NA. Is
Why don't
that
you stop talking and let them
no, I know, but I
want.
want no. You just pose a question to him, so I need. To
They
give him
might
the
say
premise.
you might need a new chassis. You don't know.
No, but I want the old chassis.
But you don't know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. You have zero experience.
No,
So
but I
shut
like
the
that.
hell up,
I
man.
like the no. You know the reason why I say the old one is because I saw an episode of Jay Leno. He
And he has
talked
an old
about
one,
that first one where it was the last of the manual. I don't know how he described, but that year the Miata was the last manual where it's like, you know, the roll down windows and nothing was electronic to it, and he loved that that model and that chassis. You know,
Yeah.
Maybe they might suggest an automatic Miata for you. So let's see what their answer
no,
will
I'm
be
interested.
for putting you in a car.
no,
on a
that'd be
truck.
Longest
cool.
question ever from West of Tulsa.
Yes, sorry.
It's going to be the first generation NA. He was right.
Yeah.
Okay, there you
He
go.
picked the right car. For us, I mean, personal prep. I mean, you got good taste. Personal preference. It's just that's the car that we've always raced. It's the car. I mean, we've owned a bunch of different makes and models, but different generations of the car, and we've always gone back to the NA. The NA is our workhorse car. That's our R&D car. I have an NA separately from that. That's my daily driver car. He has an NA that's his separate daily driver car. And those three cars that I mentioned, they're completely different from one another. I don't know what it is about that car. Maybe it's just because it's the classic one. And when you think of Miata, you know, that's the one you think of. You think of the pop-up light car.
Yeah.
You think of that big happy smile on the front of the car.
So if he found one on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, and he said, "Hey guys, I have this car. What could you guys do to it to help ensure that I don't die and I have a good time on the track? What would you guys do to that first gen Miata?"
Well, first thing would be to put a roll bar in the car, just for safety regulations. Is to be on a racetrack. Anything that has a removable top should have or has to have a roll bar in it.
Okay.
That would be number one. You can go out there with a completely factory stock tires, 14-inch wheels, you know, stock brakes. You're not going to be very fast, but you can go out there and still have fun.
See?
But like I said before, I mean, it's budget dependent on how far you're going to go. I mean, you could put $5,000 in the car and get the car set up pretty well. I don't know that it's going to be super, super competitive, but you know, it's a good start to get the car.
For a first time driver who's never been on the track, would you recommend going out in a stock Miata?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think what's good about that is they can now start to realize the progression. So if they can continue to go down that road, they can actually see where the improvements are and be like, oh wow, and start learning as far as what parts they can add to it, change to it, and then sort of their driving ability, start realizing the feedback on that part of it.
Wow. As you get more comfortable figuring out, you know, or if you're working with somebody, or if you just kind of want to have that experience of being able to, you know, better improve the car, better brakes, better tires, better wheels, better suspension, you know, that sort of thing. You that's how you learn.
Yeah,
you learn by doing.
Because I personally believe that one of the best rear-wheel drive cars to go learn on the track is a Miata. You don't need a lot of power. They're fairly cheap, you know, relatively speaking, and they're reliable. You know, because I know that's a big thing for you, Helm, is reliability. You know,
exactly.
Obviously, I don't care because I own a bunch of rotaries, so you know, reliability.
If it leaks, it's good.
But you know, that's why I feel like, you know, for anybody listening to this or watching the show that's interested in getting on the track, and because our previous guest Jeffrey Wilhelm was talking about getting back into teaching, and I was like, that's a huge thing, because the best time I ever had on the track was when I learned how to drive on this fairly stock car, because technique, obviously, as you guys know, matters more than anything else, really, and safety, of course. But that's why, you know, we put somebody like Helm, who's never been on the track, in. I think it would change the game for him for very little money to get in.
Exactly.
You know,
what is the going part for like the price, like, you know, to find a actual car for the NA?
So if you don't care about special color, special model, that sort of thing, low mileage, something that's going to be very average.
Yeah,
I would say right now the NAs are probably somewhere around 7,000 or 8,000.
really?
That's
Yeah.
that's up
Dang,
there.
they
That's up
come
there.
up
Something
there.
that's like sort of average. I mean, there definitely is stuff that's below average, but you're gonna get what you pay for. And it may be 3, 4, 5, 6 different colors. It may
Wow.
have 200,000-300,000 miles.
It'll end up in your shop.
We'll probably see it. But it may have some safety concerns. I mean, the stuff that you'll have to put into it to get it to the point where you feel confident and get it on the track so that it's safe.
Yeah.
That you'll make it a whole day and probably be able to drive the car home. And that's another big thing. A lot of our customers that have the dual purpose cars, they're driving the cars to the track, on the track, and then driving them back home.
And that's the old way of doing it. That was the old hot rodder way of doing it.
Grassroots.
Last time I was at Streets of Willow, saw a couple Miata guys, and they strapped their race tires on the back on top of the trunk,
cool.
with the ratchet
Oh,
strap.
that's
And
fun.
it's like, hey, mad props for driving your car to the track. I trailered mine, but I think it's pretty cool that they somehow fit 4 tires
Wow.
on their car.
Yeah, that kind of speaks to what I had mentioned before is durability and reliability. That's what you see in the Mazda Miata. And that's why there are so many people from so many different backgrounds that like those cars because they're affordable. Maybe a little bit less affordable today than they were, 5 years ago,
Sure.
10 years ago, but they are still affordable to do the maintenance on it, whether it's you doing it or you're taking it to the shop. It's still less expensive than you would pay for if you had a 1990 Corvette. It's going to be still a whole lot less.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
I mean, I know we've been talking about hot rodding.
Mm-hmm.
And Helm, you've been busy. You were talking to a bunch of hot rodders.
Oh yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, last weekend I had a chance to go to Auto Air Books in Burbank, California, and to meet Tony Baker, who's going to be upcoming guest on the West of Tulsa
Which we're
Show.
excited about.
Yeah, we're definitely excited. So he's the author of the history of the San Fernando hot rodding scene, and so they put out that book, and I let him know that I was going to come out to represent us and to get a book signed by him, and not knowing that when I walked in, all the original Road Kings, Burbank Road Kings, were their official founders, in addition to other key instrumental people in the car industry. So it was a fun day to meet all of them, get the book signed, and we're looking forward to having Tony Baker, Bob Moravez, as well as his son, and in maybe one of the episodes we could show maybe a close-up shot of the book on page 92. But Ed Pink actually signed our book as well. So
and Gabe,
cool.
you put some photos out on socials, on some of your socials about that meeting.
Helm
Right?
got some pictures that we put with. Helm took some pictures with Bob Moravez and Tony Baker, and I don't know if we have one of Ed on there, but we might.
Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah,
We do.
but he's basically hanging out with all the Road Kings, the Burbank Road
That's
Kings,
exciting.
which is
it
really
was
cool.
amazing. It was amazing.
Talk about the connection to Singer too.
Oh yeah,
That's pretty interesting.
Well, Ed Pink, his builds is what Singer uses the platform to build all their Porsche engines. And so, speaking with his son, who works for Singer, it was amazing to kind of see the genesis as well, where his sons, kind of like jump into the car industry was definitely the hot rodding scene because of his dad. But then now he's always been in the automotive world, but now he's with this one of the biggest bespoke companies to build awesome Porsches. And so it was nice to speak to him. And actually, if I was there just about 10 minutes longer, Jay Leno actually showed up after.
Oh,
But I had to go. I had to head out to Torrance. But he stopped in. So it was a cool outing. So I definitely recommend everybody, if you guys haven't been to that bookstore in Burbank,
It's really
great,
cool.
Great for automotive. I think it's one of the last bookstores that contains, from their magazine section to books, aviation, automobile.
New and old.
Yeah, new and old. It's amazing
and
shop.
it's Aero Books.
Auto Aero Books.
Auto Aero
Auto
Books.
Books, Aero Books.
Which shout out to Tina, the owner of the bookstore. She's the one that kind of connected us with Tony Baker, but she would love for us to come out to the bookstore to interview them.
Yeah,
So,
we'll definitely do our show up there for sure.
So that's a preview of a show we have coming up
Yeah,
there. That's
yeah,
what I
yeah,
wanted
yeah.
Helm to talk about. We were talking about
But,
hot rodding
hey,
and all
you know,
that.
we're on this hot rodding tip, but again, we forgot to do the question.
Oh,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
thought about it when they were talking because You know,
We're not professionals here,
We,
folks.
we,
I'm a half
we
hour
always
late on
forget
this.
the question. Every episode we forget it
You
pretty
know,
much.
I need cue cards. That's what it is. Otherwise, I forgot to do the tip line off the top, too.
Yeah, well, whatever.
See, I'm breaking all these
Yeah.
freaking rules.
Yeah,
Live
right.
and learn.
But the question is, would you guys drive to drive down to West of Tulsa? Would you guys drive?
Miata.
Let's hope a Miata.
Of course.
yeah.
Of course.
Miata.
What kind?
What did we drive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Well,
did
Yeah,
you-
Miata.
well, which Miata? What year? What?
So it's
We
a
want all the specs, by the way.
94 Montego Blue M edition. So it's got the Nardi steering wheel, Nardi shifter, and the hand grip, or brake grip. It's got the C package on it. So it's got the tan interior, air conditioning, stereo. It's the big deal.
Is that the
So, wait,
NB?
NA.
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 That's the
So it was-
first generation.
It was the first M edition, like official M edition car that had come out.
I'm going to stop you. It wasn't.
It wasn't?
What about the British Racing Green? That
That's
was
not
the
an M
first
edition.
one.
That's not an M edition.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways.
He's got
Well,
me on that.
so
Anyways.
so with the M editions from Mazda, the Nardi steering wheel stock from the factory.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
So they had like a Nardi package. So some of the cars, so it has a Nardi shift knob, and then it has a wood grip that I don't know is Nardi, but it's just part of like the wood package that was for it.
We'll get some photos
they
of
make-
you guys
oh,
with
yeah.
the car.
They made it very premium. Had like
It's
chrome door sills, and then the tan leather interior. It looks like a completely different car. If you were to compare a package, which is bare bones, manual windows, manual mirrors, no air conditioning, no power steering. I think a cassette player. It was very basic.
Is that your car or is that
It's my car.
It's your
It's his
Oh.
car.
Is that your daily? Obviously, you're not tracking that car.
No, I'm not tracking it. You know, I believe in, walking the talk. And if I can't sort of convey that by also driving a car, then I shouldn't be out there promoting it.
Okay, so you have two Miatas. That's one of them, and the other one's your track car.
No, the other one is well, it is kind of a track car, yeah.
Okay.
When I say kind of a track car, yeah, I do use it for the track purposes. I don't use it as a daily driver, so
Okay,
you're right.
And then you also have your hot rods.
Yeah, well, I have a Corvette, which is a 1964 that's kind of all redone, and it looks like the Grand Sport. And then I've also, well, I shouldn't say I also. My wife has a 71 442.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
okay.
and this guy made me get rid of my 74 Z28 because he said I didn't drive it, which is kind of true. But and we also were also running into issues with one of our neighbors that every time it started up, she would come out and start yelling at me. This car's too loud.
She wasn't a hot rodder.
In Ryan's defense, I'll back him up on that because I feel like if you don't drive a car that's drivable, because I have plenty of cars that are not drivable that I would like to drive. But if you have a car that's drivable and you don't drive it, what's the point of having it? Because, unless you're a car collector, which I don't think you guys are collector. You guys like driving your cars.
Yeah.
If you don't drive it, you might as well let somebody else drive it, and that's just my personal take on it. Don't shoot me in the comments below. But I feel like if you're not a collector, you should be driving all your cars at least once in a blue moon. If you don't drive them, get rid of them and get something else that you
No,
want.
and I agree with you that was one of the reasons why when I let it go, I didn't feel that sort of, oh God, I'm going to hate this. I knew that it was going to go to a good home and that somebody was going to drive it and enjoy it.
So when she came out and yelled at you, was it like reliving your childhood, your teenage years of the hot rods where you piss off every neighbor? It kind of felt good, didn't it?
In our neighborhood, I always try to be respectful for everyone that's around there. And I felt kind of bad, but after she walked away, I was thinking to myself, damn, I still love this car. And I revved it a couple more times.
Yeah,
and I
there
left.
you go. There you go.
That's funny.
And what about you, Ryan? What cars is in your garage or stable there?
So obviously Miata. So I have a daily driver Miata that's a 92. That's a really special car for a lot of reasons. The car itself is special because it's a 92 Sunburst yellow. It's bright yellow. And it's special because the car, they only made 1,500 of them. So it's one of that car. And at the time when the car had come out, it was special and nobody wanted the yellow. So a lot of dealerships had to special order them, and then they got stuck with them. And it was just kind of funny. But that's my daily driver car. Our workhorse car, or R&D car, is a '97 Miata, which is still the same body style. It's the very last year of the NA. That's our workhorse car that we made a wide body kit for. It has a fastback top on it, so it doesn't really look like a Miata. I get a lot of people that ask me if it's an RX-7 or Porsche or something that's not Miata, and I just say, yeah, that is whatever you think it is, because it doesn't have any badges on it. It doesn't look like a Miata. It's the wide body kit that's on the car. I think the rears are, I don't know, like 5 inches bigger than factory.
Wow.
It's the 10-inch wheels all the way around. It's.
Are you running spacers on that to get the? Oh, so you just run a red low offset wheel.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They're really low offset Workmeisters.
Nice.
They're very,
Good
very
choice
cool.
of wheel. Good choice.
5.5-inch lips. It looks exactly how it's supposed to. It looks exactly how we intended the car to look.
Nice.
And that car, we have a bunch of stuff that we did to that car as well, as far as engine wise too. The suspension was modeled after a car that was successful in Japan, from JIC Magic, which was cool. The engine has some engine parts from a company in Japan that we're working with, called Maruha. That's got cams, and they make a bunch of different stuff for it. And it also has a Roadtrek supercharger kit that's on the car. That's something that we put together that we're hoping to make it a regular production piece.
Okay.
But it's a pretty wild car, and it's very weird to go between those two cars and drive the very plain daily car, and then to drive that one, because they don't really share anything other than the name on the title. Pretty much that. And then I also have a 69 Camaro that he had mentioned earlier. That's a car that I'll put it back together at some point. That's where that car lives right now.
So it's in pieces, is what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had this brilliant idea of trying to create a kit for some brake and suspension parts that didn't exist. What I wanted to do was, so it's a 69 car, and I wanted to update the wheel bearings in the car to have sealed bearing wheel bearings. And what I found is we were able to combine certain things to create a kit for the 69 factory arms to use C5 Corvette hubs. So instead of having to pack wheel bearings and grease and deal with all that, if the wheel bearings go out, you unbolt them out, throw them away, bolt in some new ones, and then you're back on the road. And then with that, it also uses all C5 brake pieces. So anything that would be from C5, C6, C7 is all applicable to that.
Oh, cool.
And that's something that we're kind of working on behind the scenes, but that's partially the reason.
More
why it's
R&D.
More R&D. It never ends. It definitely never ends.
I find it very interesting, because you're talking about your neighbor that didn't like your loud Z28. Having a shop in Goleta, and if you don't know where Goleta is, it's Santa Barbara, basically, right outside of Santa Barbara. Having a shop, I mean, I'm finding more and more, especially like with Mariah Motorsports and these other guys, there's a lot of, I mean, I don't know if you guys are the only two, but there's a shop that actually works on cars in Goleta or Santa Barbara County. Are there many shops like that? Because I find that very rare. That's when CJ told me about you guys. I'm like, there's a shop in Goleta? I'm like, of all places? I'm like, I don't know. Is that kind of, are you guys kind of like rare, or is that?
I think we are rare in some respects. First of all, just to kind of pinpoint our location, we are across from the Santa Barbara airport. And if you go back in history, they did a tremendous amount of road racing out there. And that was kind of the tipping point in our decision to be able to set up there. We wanted to kind of be, in a place that we felt this
history,
vibe,
right? Some history
and good feelings there. So, and we've been very successful. I'm sorry.
Sure.
What about you? We even did a commemoration towards that. We designed a shirt that had the track on the back of it, and
cool.
it said on the top of it, faster than
Riverside,
which it was. But anyways, going back to your original question, as far as are we unique in that, I would have to say, in some respects, yeah. A lot of the places that used to be there, like Mariah, they aren't in the same fashion that they had originally started off.
Yeah.
So Mariah's kind of morphed into something else, which I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think they're rotary engineering now. I think they do. I think they split the company with the body kits and then the actual race tuning that they've done. Brandon, don't shoot me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding of them.
Something like that. They're not like what they used to be under
correct.
the previous owner.
Yeah.
And then Bob Jenks, which used to build motors for a lot of the hot rodders back there, he's gone. Chip Foose, he's moved out of there. The Foose
family.
So there's really not any of those guys that are into building horsepower, except for us, and maybe there might be that we're unaware of. There might be one, maybe two other places there, but they're not as visual, or they're not as out there as we are.
Right, and I do know there's some shops in the Santa Barbara area, Goleta area, where they're not open to the public, but they do that stuff.
Okay.
So they're more private. They do it for their own enjoyment, their own fun.
Yeah.
But
Where's
they're
the fun in
full-blown
that?
shops.
Where's the fun of that? They can't.
But they don't take in customers.
Get my car worked on, man.
No, they work on their own cars.
Just kidding.
So, but there are a few of those. In fact, what we're touching on here is one of the topics that we've had the most comments on in our social media.
Yeah.
What was the one was Dana Newquist when we had him on talking about how these trades are
decline of trades in automotive trades,
and who will work on them, who won't.
So there's a huge debate. I want to call it a debate, but a discussion,
heated discussion
in
some respect.
In one of our videos that where Dana talks about how a lot of these trades in restoration of cars has gone body guys and electronic guys and so on and so forth. And it sounds to me like you might have touched on this a little bit. Have you guys seen that decline is getting harder and harder to find people to do, whether it be tuning, engine building, paint, interior? Are you guys finding that as well?
So for our business, I honestly believe that we're very niche. And there's people, at least in my opinion, I think he'll agree with me. There's people who will say that they do that kind of work. And maybe they do, but the quality or level of quality that we kind of expect is maybe different. And we may have different ideas on what that thing is. So having the same idea is not always the same thing. And
some guys may be going for a show car, and you guys are doing more practical, get in the car and go.
Yeah, or vice versa. And that's the thing that might be kind of tough. But in the time that we've been in business, we've definitely seen a fair amount of businesses go away. And that's always tough to see, because you want everybody that's doing business legitimately to survive, and do and continue to be a resource for other people to be out there and provide the service that they can and help everybody and do those things. But as far as people that are out there, I mean, I think forever there's people that are out there that will say that they do the kind of work that we do, but I don't know to what extent or what sort of quality. And we're doing like a paint job, for example. We don't do paint. This is going to be outside of us, but doing a paint job, it's not. There's different levels of doing it, where you could have a show car, or you could do like a race car paint job. And a race car paint job really is you're just covering the car with a color. It's not a nice car.
It's going to get banged up anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to get damaged, so it's not something that you're really concerned about it being nice and shiny. And to say that like you're a painter, for example, on what end of the spectrum are you? And I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, it does.
Yeah. I mean, it's something you can sit here. We can sit here all day long and talk about that topic.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many nuances to it, and there's so many moving parts and pieces. But
I think just going back to that question, I think part of it is education. The schools have kind of changed as far as what they're targeting. Everything is computers, programming, that sort of thing. And I think in our area, the only high school that actually has an automotive program is
San Marcos.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I mean, it's almost a part-time thing. I don't think it's always. I mean, you'll see cars parked up, and you'll see the gates locked, but there aren't always people in there. So I'm not sure what the story is about that.
And I think the other side of it is in getting involved in what we do, you got to be passionate about it, because it's not easy work. And if you think it is, I mean, you see the car after it's done and everything, and it looks cool, and you look at the detail and you think, wow. But actually getting the car there, it's a lot of work, a lot of dirty work, greasy work, and a lot of people don't want to do that anymore. And maybe that's what you're kind of seeing. But I've also, I do a lot of reading, and I also see that, the blue collar worker guy, he's coming back. And, is that, what we do is blue collar work? I don't really know, and I don't really care. I just love what I do. And I would like to see more people that are passionate like that. Give me someone who's passionate. I'll figure out how to train that person to do what I do. And that's the key. That's the key.
Yeah,
That's
I agree.
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's very
awesome.
cool. Kevin Haberly, he, with the Hot Rod Project, he was talking about this too,
Yeah,
about
yeah.
how the
Yeah.
trades have gone away from schools, and you said that because out of high school, you went to a trade school for automotive, right?
Yep.
I think that's a huge thing. I think there needs to be more people like that because we've been so conditioned to like go to the 4-year college, and that didn't work out for me. And like other people that I know too, where they could have just gone into, a trade or go work for a company or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. Many paths to that, So I think that's good that you touched on that.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming in. Driving up
Thank
the
you for having
101
us.
to come see us, or actually driving down the 101 to come see us from Goleta.
Yep.
I always get that backwards.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
driving part is always something that I enjoy doing when I'm behind the wheel of a Miata.
Yeah.
So, you asked me to go all the way up. If the location was all the way up in San Francisco, I'd
You'd
have
have
my
been
hand
there.
up. Okay, I'll
All
be there.
right. I love it. I love it.
Can I just ask? I forgot to ask.
We
in the
know
beginning.
I think you ran
'Cause
out
I
of your
admit-
time there, Helm. No, I'm joking. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No,
Go
this-
ahead.
I wanted to ask this question in the beginning, but we had just a lot of awesome questions before that. But what is the meaning behind Miata?
Well,
Like,
it's
what-
probably Jinba
It's a
Ite.
name. It's a name.
Yeah, and what it represents, and this is the concept that they had used to kind of develop it. It's horse and man, putting them together,
Oh,
and that's kind of what the idea was behind the Miata.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Interesting. Good question. Good way to
Wait,
wrap it up there,
wait,
Helm.
wait, we didn't wait till an hour to ask
I
that.
haven't been here in a while, so that's why I'm trying
Yeah,
to get up.
I
to
just
speed.
want to make sure that I said it right. It's Jinba Ite.
Jinba Ite.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Good question.
You saved the best for last there,
Yeah.
Helm. You got to join
And
us
also,
more
and-
often.
and well, no, I miss being here, but also too, you inspired me to kind of look in because you're talking about how they did various color ways, and I'm like, the only Miata I used to see was like a tan and maybe black and red. But now I want to kind of research and see what kind of colorways they did.
Ooh, Miata for Helm soon, maybe.
Ooh.
Dude, hey,
Okay.
can you convert a Miata to a wagon? 'Cause I'm a wagon guy.
anything is possible.
Yeah,
it already is missing the top, so it's just a matter of putting another top
Hey, we
on
need
it.
to stretch it. Yeah.
You say that, and we kind of laugh about it, but there are companies out there that are rebodying Miatas with Corvettes, with C2 Corvettes, and I'm not saying that it's exactly the same size. It's shrunk down. 57 Chevys I've seen on Corvettes, and
Wow.
it's cool. And I honestly believe it goes back to those three words, which is dependability, quality, and reliability. When you have that as your base or foundation for your vehicle, you can put anything on it and still enjoy being,
Totally.
57 Chevy guy, or a Corvette person. Yeah. And also one last thing to touch on is the colors.
Yeah.
So they only came out when they originally came out with the Miata was in blue, red, or white. That's all you could get.
I remember
it's
those, yeah.
interesting how they expanded, and that's why I say I believe they looked at what we were doing in the 70s and understanding the different color combinations, and boom, it exploded from there. And
do you think there's any meaning behind red, white, and blue?
It's the flag, the
When they're
U.S.
sending
flag.
it to the U.S.
Yeah, it could-
it
it
could
It's
be.
France. It's France. It was-
Oh.
What are
the
you,
French love Miatas.
are you thinking Peugeot? We haven't had a Peugeot yet.
I'm just
show yet.
Did you just? This is a random fact. I'm just gonna throw out there. Did you guys know that the first prototype for the Miata was in Santa Barbara? They tested it in Santa Barbara. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I did
that's
not know
interesting.
that.
There's a bunch of pictures of it in Santa Barbara, and it's a right hand drive. It doesn't totally look like the production car, but yeah, they tested it. Originally, they were going to test it in Santa Monica.
Wow.
I think it was Santa Monica, but they were originally going to do it there, and they brought it to Santa Barbara because they figured there'd be less press. It didn't really work out that way, but yeah, the original prototype they tested in Santa Barbara.
It's a great place to test out a convertible.
Yeah,
What was the
Yeah, it
first
is.
year for the NA?
89.
Or 89 to 97.
To 97.
Nice. Okay.
Correct.
Well, see, he's catching on.
You're
he's
not
going to be a
gonna find an
Miata guy.
80
I think you've converted him.
He won't find an 89. Maybe.
Are the 89s difficult to find? think.
It was like a pre-production year, so like technically it's a 90, but there are 89 VIN number or production dates in the doors, so
Wow,
it is
okay.
89 to 97.
I take it those are valuable if you can find one that's.
The first
No?
year actually is like probably the least valuable. The first
Really?
year had some catastrophic engine issues.
Yeah, that's what they say with most cars. Your first year, you don't
Yeah,
want to
bugs,
buy it.
The bugs.
Yeah,
are
and then they
not
updated
fixed.
it for 91 to, so there were a bunch of different engine variations. So the first couple of years, so 90 to 93 was 1.6, and then 94 to 97 was 1.8, and then they changed it again after that. But the 91 late to 93 was the fixed 1.6. The 90 was the one that had the catastrophic engine.
By now, probably most of those have been sorted out. You would think.
I would hope
right?
so.
Yeah.
We've seen
You probably
we've seen
see
a
a
few.
few,
Yeah,
yeah.
we've seen them. They're like, I don't know,
Show
my
up at
car
your
only
show.
has 40,000 miles. I don't know why it doesn't work anymore. It's
Don't
because
you
the
know you
first-
don't buy the first year of a
Yeah,
Miata
yeah.
or any car? For
I got
that
such a good deal on it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you need an engine now. So
Yeah.
All right, Ralph, Ryan, thank you so much. R&R Motorsports, if you're not, how can, or Motorworks, I almost said motorsports, because I got sports in my head. So Motorworks, but if people want to reach you guys, how can they reach you?
3 ways. Social media. We're on Facebook and also Instagram. You can call us, number 805-845-8750, or you go to our website, which is R&R. No, let me take that back. The website is, the address is rrmotorworks.com.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Or you can follow us on Instagram, RR_motorwork. Yeah, they got me messed up now. I was like, hold on, it's RR_motorworks on Instagram.
And we're going to, in a minute here, as soon as we wrap this up, we're going to take a picture. We're going to post it on our socials, right?
Picture of
Little
what?
selfie.
Of us,
selfie,
just all
selfie.
together.
Yeah, if we don't-
And so we'll tag
We forgot to do it
and-
one time.
I know. That was my fault, probably.
Yeah. Sorry, Jeffrey.
All right. Again, thanks, guys, for joining us. Really learned a ton about Miatas. Had so much fun.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Helm's
you.
going to go
Thank
buy
you
one
guys
now.
for inviting us. We enjoyed
That's
the day.
awesome,
It was awesome.
Okay, good. All right. So don't forget, like, follow, subscribe. We have our YouTube.
Channel.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate you listening, watching on whatever platform you're watching and listening on. And we will see you west of Tulsa.